Hi, this is Doug, and I want to welcome you to this three-part video blog series on marching band rehearsal techniques. I'm excited to share this information with you. This isn't anything that um, I can take full credit for. All right, this is stuff I've learned from other people through my years of experience. I hope that you maybe pick up one thing that you can use. All right, have a great day. This is the first installment of a three-part series covering marching band rehearsal techniques. And in this first segment, we're going to be looking at mainly organization and scheduling. And when I start to thinking about what we actually do in marching band rehearsals, time is our most precious commodity. It's hard to replace time. It really is. So, in my mind, time equals instruction plus the number of reps. This is what we're doing in marching band rehearsals. We're either teaching a new concept or a new portion of our program, and then we're repping that to build muscle memory and to build continuity throughout the program that we'll be performing. So then we look at our rehearsal timeline. What do we have available to us? Are we able to start really in the spring, okay, late April, early May, with reading the music? Do we have the music available to us for the next season so we can start looking at it and really start to plan and working with our personnel? And then in June, are we able to have some sectionals? That way, our students are getting some instruction. With the advent of Zoom and all the other things we have available to us, these can take um, really kind of different forms. I'm really old school. I think that everybody comes into school for a sectional and we work on their music before we start putting it together with the full ensemble. Then late July, early August, then we're looking at band camp. Do we have a pre-camp? Do we go away? Are we at our school for camp? How all that works? Do we have a pre-camp where we're working on basics and really working on our music, getting it ready for the next week when we come into what we call band camp, and then we actually start teaching the drill and all the movement on the field along with the music. So we come out of camp and we have, if not all of the show on the field, 80% of it, a very large chunk of what we're going to be performing in the fall on the field, ready to go. And then once we get into school, then we're looking at regular rehearsals and performing. So we get in the cycle of performing on Friday or Saturday, rehearsing, getting ready for the next performance, maybe taking feedback from our adjudicator friends and making those changes and tweaks and additions. And so you get into the cycle of performing, rehearsing, performing, rehearsing. You might have a couple of weeks that you're able to kind of retool things and then go out and perform again, however that works for us. Looking at rehearsals individually, a snapshot, okay? Dedicated visual basic time, I think, is super important. Every rehearsal needs to have a focus just on visual basics. Dedicated music time, we're just focusing on the music, all right? Then a time to blend those two together. We can't really learn the visual and the music at the same time. We have to kind of learn them separately and then blend them into the visual and audio program that we're going to be performing on the field. Run through all known material. That's another goal of every rehearsal. So even if we just know the first two sets of the opener, before we leave that rehearsal, that's what we need to run so that the students leave feeling like they've accomplished something. They're leaving on a high note. They're leaving on a really positive thing. You want that to happen every rehearsal. Then we're going to look at what's a good mix, okay, for visual, music, and then blending those two together. And I got to thinking about this. This wasn't something that I did when I taught high school and I sat and I really thought about the percentage. This is something I've done the last few years, thinking about, I want to teach my music education students something that they can go out and use right away. So I started playing around with this idea of a good mix for a rehearsal depending on what time of year it is. So First, we're going to look at early season rehearsal. All right. So this is that time, could be in the spring, could be June. But if you look at how things are divided, there's a big chunk of time for just visual basics. This is a 2 hour, based on a 2 hour rehearsal, 48 minutes of marching basics. That doesn't all have to be in block. It could be split out into small groups. It could be some individual attention. It could be across the floors. It could be whatever we want to happen during that 48 minutes. But 48 minutes dedicated just on how we perform visually, right? And then music only. So now we're standing still or we're sitting and we're just working on playing and learning our music. And then the blending would be not very long at all, very small portion. Okay, so this could be marching in basic block and playing a scale pattern. It could be marking time and playing a scale pattern. It could be doing what I call tracking, where we're in marching block or basic block and we're playing a phrase of our music. So that you're starting to put those two things together, but it's very little time. It's just not much at all. Then we get into mid-season. Then we're looking at still visual basics. And the reason why I think it's so important to keep that time up there, even when we get to mid-season, is that it takes a lot of time to get that muscle memory and to get things really refined and defined the way you want visually. Students are ahead, typically, musically, over visual, right? When they come to us from their previous experience, middle school or whatever, they're not going to have as much visual experience as they are musical experience. And then you can see the music only time dwindles down a little bit, and then the blending time is starting to kick up now, all right? Then when we get to late season, still looking at 2 hours, our visual basic time is reduced quite a bit. Music only, reduced quite a bit. And then it's all about blending. It's all about, let's work on the ballad of our show. Let's work on set 3 to set 4 of the closer, or whatever it is. We're really moving and playing all the time at the same time, right? Then when we start looking at efficiency and what we're really trying to get to, you really want to get that number of quality reps up. Now, not just reps, but quality reps. And we're going to look at what that is in the next slide. It's really easy to say, hey, just run this tune or just run this section. All right, run it again, run it again. Okay, why are we running it again? Right? What is our focus this time when we do this? And what are we watching or listening for? Let's look at what a quality rep is. Okay. First of all, it's a unified effort. Everybody knows where they're starting, where they're ending, what we're focusing on. What is the goal of this particular rep? All right. The task is performed at the actual level of expertise possessed by the ensemble at the time. So what I would expect from my ensemble in August is going to be very different than what I would expect from my ensemble in October, right? So I want to see their performance level. I don't want to see just, okay, going through the motions. I want to know exactly how well you can do this phrase today. And I'm going to base that by comparing what it looked like, what it sounded like yesterday, what it sounded like last week. Okay, so the value of what I'm looking or listening to is going to be determined by previous experience. So that's the other part of it, is while you're running reps is, the group may overall improve through 3 reps of something or 4, and then they're going to peak, and then it's going to start to deteriorate. So you want to not keep going after they've peaked. All right. Once you get that to improve, Then you go, all right, that's where it is today. We're going to come back to that tomorrow or the next rehearsal, whatever that is. All right. It's really important to have a rehearsal etiquette, a procedure. So most important to have an understood etiquette procedure of working ensemble on the field. So a ready position, a set, using freeze and adjust. I like to, once we finish a phrase or a rep, everybody freeze, and then I give them time to adjust to what they can see with their horn up, because that's what you do when you perform. And when you're making adjustments and guiding, you have to do that in real time. So now I'm trying to help, what is the word I'm looking for? Condition the ensemble to do that. So I give them time to adjust. If we need to stop and mark things off, whatever, to make sure that we're where we want to be on the performance field. But you want to have that procedure in place because, again, time is our most precious commodity. So the less time we spend between reps, guess what? The more reps we get. So that is paramount. Look at the person addressing the group. Look at the tower if there's someone talking to you on the field. Raise your hand when section name is called. This gives the staff, the director, an idea of, okay, they heard me say mellophone because all the mellophones went up in the air. Use -1 and +1 to get more reps on change of direction. So if we're running set 2 to set 3, I'll have my group, I'll have them back up 1 count. I'll say, okay, go to set 2. Now back up 1 count. Think about the direction you were coming from into this set. Set your feet in that position. Set your upper body in that position as well. Okay, now let's run the next set, 16 counts. And then they get that a rep. Every time you do that, they're repping that direction change, or it could be even an effort change as well at the beginning of the phrase. And then you carry that over to the end. Say, okay, now we're going to run set 2 to set 3. I want you to do +1. So you're going to do the 16 counts, and then you're going to do your change of direction, and we're going to freeze on count 1, make sure everybody's upper body is where it's supposed to be, blah, 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 all that stuff, okay? That really, really helps build in reps. Now, one other thing about our activity is that a football field isn't exactly what we say it is, right? A high school football field, the hash marks are not exactly 28 steps apart. They are slightly under 28 steps apart. However, the field is divided into 3 equal thirds. Okay, so that's a good thing. That's a plus that high school has over NCAA football field. But it's important to know that when you're dealing with things, there is an amount of a margin of error built into the field. Okay, and then you have to decide how you're going to deal with that as a director, as a staff. If you're using Pieware and you're using the traditional field on the charts, then it's going to say that it is 28 steps between. Okay, it's going to round it. There is a way in Pieware to set it up where it's a true high school field, and it pushes that error to the back of the field. And so the hash marks really are where they're supposed to be. Okay. When we're working on cleaning visual performance specifically, there are 3 perspectives used in putting our show on the field. There are the charts, right? It's the intent of the design from your visual designer. Then there's the performer's perspective, what they can see, what they can feel, what they can relate to while they're performing their dot. And then there's the director / staff. So what we're seeing, what we're hearing, how we're seeing this group of people move together. So those 3 things really go into our product, how we're able to take and refine that. So it's important to decide, you kind of have to float between those 3 things. And it has to be a collaborative effort. We have the charts to refer to. We're all looking at those. How are we interpreting those? And then, what are we going to help? What are we going to do to help each other get to where we want to go? Visual responsibilities of the performer. They're responsible for their bearing, their body alignment, their dot, knowing where their dot is. Can I tell you where my dot is in set 4 of the third production? And then having their center of their body over their dot. Do they know their guide points? Who am I guiding toward? It's always a way that we can see. We're not going to guide to someone behind us. But they have to have that, and they have to be taught that as they're learning the program. Hey, during this move, you're going to need to guide to this person, okay, or this group of people. That's really, really important. So that wraps up part 1.